Welcome to this week's episode of the Global Intelligence Weekly wrap-up for the week ending November 29th, 2024. This week, we're diving into breaking intelligence stories from around the globe. From the arrest of a Norwegian guard accused of espionage for Russia and Iran, to Canada's diplomatic tensions with India over Sikh separatist violence, and the latest UK espionage cases targeting journalists, we'll uncover the hidden layers behind these headlines. Plus, we explore suspected sabotage of undersea cables in the Baltic Sea, exposing vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure. With over 25 years of experience as a trained intelligence officer, Neil Bisson brings you top-secret level insights and expert analysis into the events shaping global security. Let's get started.
Hello, welcome back to the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. I'm your host, Neil Bisson. There's been a lot of information out there this week in the media concerning some old-school style espionage and sabotage. So sit back and let me provide you the added analysis and insights to provide you with a better understanding of how what's happening in the international intrigue world is affecting you. Today's first news article takes us to a breaking story out of Norway, where a security guard at the US Embassy in Oslo was arrested on allegations of spying for Russia and Iran. The story, reported by CNN, highlights the ongoing global struggle against intelligence threats. The arrest involves a Norwegian man in his 20s accused of collecting and sharing sensitive information with Russian and Iranian authorities. Norwegian intelligence services, the PST, allege that his actions amount to attempted aggravated intelligence activities against state secrets. This case underscores the persistent threat posed by espionage operations targeting Western institutions. Moscow and Tehran's involvement continues to raise concerns, as evidenced by covert actions, including an alleged assassination plot against President-elect Donald Trump and covert operations targeting cargo and passenger flights in Europe. From an intelligence perspective, this case demonstrates the critical vulnerabilities within trusted institutions. Even a security guard at a high-profile location like the US Embassy can pose a significant threat if compromised. Espionage activities by Russia and Iran are not new, but have grown increasingly sophisticated. Norway, a NATO member, has been a frequent target due to its strategic geopolitical position and its collaboration with Western intelligence allies. This arrest comes amid heightened scrutiny of foreign interference globally. For example, in recent months, Western officials have thwarted Iranian plots to harm dissidents abroad and Russia's attempts to influence democratic processes in various nations. Comparing this incidents to past espionage cases, it follows a familiar pattern: an insider exploited by adversaries to gain access to sensitive information. This situation reinforces the need for stringent vetting and robust counterintelligence measures. The suspect's lawyer stated that the client denies being a spy but admitted to sharing information. The lawyer's claims of his client's consenting to imprisonment while denying guilt may reflect a strategy to minimize sentencing. The PST's public confirmation of the arrest and the U.S. State Department's non-commentary highlight the delicate handling of intelligence breaches in public forums. Having worked in embassies and consulates, I can say that these incidences often have broader implications beyond the immediate case. Compromised individuals can serve as entry points for adversarial operations, jeopardizing not only the local intelligence but also allied nation security frameworks. This case of espionage involving the U.S. Embassy guard in Oslo serves as a reminder of the pervasive threats posed by adversarial intelligence operations. It underscores the need for continuous security vetting, robust counterintelligence, and international cooperation to address these challenges. Looking ahead, we can hopefully expect tighter security protocols and continued emphasis on monitoring inside the threats at sensitive institutions. Meanwhile, here in Canada, our next story focuses on a diplomatic flashpoint between Canada and India. Recent allegations tied Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and senior officials to a campaign of violence against Sikh separatists in Canada. But the Canadian government has issued a firm denial, saying no evidence links Modi to such acts. Tensions between Canada and India remain high after Canada expelled 6 Indian diplomats last month, accusing them of involvement in an intimidation plot targeting Sikh separatists. Ottawa claims that its evidence linking Indian agents to the 2023 killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a prominent Sikh separatist leader, on Canadian soil. However, a recent statement from Natalie Droon, the National Security and Intelligence Advisor to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, clarified that Canada has no evidence implicating Modi, his foreign minister, or India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval in any criminal activities in Canada. This denial contradicts reports suggesting that senior Indian officials, including Modi, were aware of the violent plots against Sikh separatists. From an intelligence standpoint, such allegations highlight the complex and sensitive nature of diplomatic intelligence sharing and the risks of geopolitical fallout from accusations without substantial proof. The controversy stems from the murder of Nijjar, a Canadian citizen and vocal advocate for Khalistan, a proposed Sikh homeland carved out of Indian territory. India has labeled Sikh separatists as terrorists, accusing them of undermining its national security. This narrative clashes with Canada's stance, as it accommodates a large and politically active Sikh diaspora, the largest outside India's Punjab state. This is not the first time India has been accused of targeting dissidents abroad. Allegations of extraterritorial operations to suppress separatist movements have surfaced in other countries, including the UK and Australia, although concrete evidence has often been elusive. The Globe and Mail report suggested Canadian security agencies believed senior Indian officials were in the loop about the plots, escalating concerns about state-sponsored interference. Still, the Canadian government's denial underscores the importance of clear, credible evidence before making accusations with significant geopolitical implications. I had the opportunity to discuss this statement by the National Security and Intelligence Advisor on CTV News, and during the interview I explained that Durin, a former Deputy Minister of Justice and Deputy Attorney General, was clearly hanging her hat on the term evidence as opposed to information or intelligence. The Canadian government is most likely in possession of information acquired by technical intercept, human source, or allied intelligence partner that draws a direct line from the upper echelon of the Modi government to the actions of the Indian intelligence officer who was in charge of the assassinations of Nijjar and the plot to assassinate American-Canadian Sikh activist Panoon. As the investigation into Nijjar's murder unfolds, expect diplomatic relations between Canada and India to remain strained. These events also serve as a reminder of the intricate interplay between national security, intelligence operations, and international diplomacy. Keeping our attention squarely focused on Canada's National Security and Intelligence Advisor, our next story deals with Prime Minister Trudeau's directive for the renewed national security strategy, tasking his National Security and Intelligence Advisor, Nathalie Drouin, with drafting a framework to strengthen Canada's security, defence, and diplomatic posture. Prime Minister Trudeau's mandate for Nathalie Drouin highlights the urgency of modernizing Canada's national security strategy. The framework is expected to be dynamic, addressing foreign interference, strategic threats, and other evolving challenges. Trudeau emphasized the importance of ensuring actionable intelligence reaches decision-makers efficiently while improving transparency with Canadians. This directive signals a shift towards a proactive and comprehensive approach covering a wide array of concerns including foreign interference, climate change, and emerging technologies. It reflects a growing recognition that Canada must align its intelligence priorities with rapidly changing global threats. From an intelligence perspective, this strategy offers an opportunity to integrate national security efforts across all levels of government and with allied partners. However, it also raises questions about resource allocation, potential bureaucratic bottlenecks, and the effectiveness of public engagement in shaping security policy. This initiative follows months of heightened focus on national security, with foreign interference, particularly from China and Russia, being a major concern. Canada has faced criticism for lagging behind its Five Eyes partners in addressing these threats with coordinated strategies. Comparatively, other nations have implemented similar periodic reviews to ensure their security frameworks remain adaptive. The UK's integrated review of security, defence, development, and foreign policy, for example, offers lessons on incorporating technology and climate considerations into national security. Trudeau's mandate draws attention to the critical role of the National Security and Intelligence Advisor in steering Canada's response to threats. The letter underscores a need for modernization, transparency, and collaboration, setting the tone for Drouin's expanded responsibilities. As a retired CSIS officer, I see this as an important first step towards a more proactive national security and intelligence collection stance. Modern security challenges demand robust interagency coordination, timely intelligence dissemination, and a strategy that balances transparency with operational security. For Nathalie Drouin, this mandate represents a chance to redefine how intelligence supports national decision-making while addressing public concerns about government accountability. Prime Minister Trudeau's directive to Nathalie Drouin to develop a renewed national security strategy is a significant step towards strengthening Canada's preparedness against evolving threats. But it is also a way and a means of trying to demonstrate that in the face of lacking intelligence culture in Canada, the current governing party is trying to make noticeable changes. This move could help to reshape Canada's approach to foreign interference, technological disruption, and global geopolitical shifts. As the strategy develops, it will be critical to monitor how public consultation and interagency collaboration influence its effectiveness. Our next story brings us to England, where we will be diving into a breaking story from the BBC entitled "Number 10 Dismisses Russian Spy Claims as Baseless." The developing situation involves allegations by Russia's FSB against a British diplomat, escalating tensions between the UK and Russia. Let's explore what's happening and why it matters. This week, Russia's Federal Security Service, or FSB, accused a British diplomat in Moscow of falsifying documents and conducting espionage. The diplomat has now been expelled, with Russia showcasing the accusation prominently on state-run media. The UK government, however, has called the claims malicious and baseless, reiterating its communication to protecting national interests. The accusation is part of a broader trend of heightened diplomatic expulsions and accusations since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. The UK's firm denial of these charges reflects a broader geopolitical struggle, where allegations of espionage are used not just for security purposes, but also as tools of propaganda and power projection. From an intelligence perspective, the tit-for-tat nature of the expulsions can erode diplomatic communications channels. This raises operational risks for intelligence agencies and complicates efforts to resolve broader tensions between these nations. Expulsions of diplomats between the UK and Russia have increased in frequency, with the latest move echoing earlier incidences. For example, earlier this year, Captain Adrian Kogel, a British military attaché, was also expelled on espionage charges, shortly after a Russian diplomat faced similar action in London. This cycle of retaliation reflects a deeper breakdown in relations, driven by Russia's actions in Ukraine, international sanctions, and Western military aid to Kiev. Recently, the UK lifted restrictions on using Storm Shadow missiles against Russian targets, a decision that likely added fuel to the fire. This case also mirrors past Cold War tactics, where intelligence operatives on both sides were frequently accused, exposed, and expelled in public displays designed to shape public opinion and deter adversaries. Russia's Foreign Ministry spokeswoman, Maria Zakharov, emphasized Russia's stance that the diplomats' actions were deliberate and justified the expulsion. The FSB claims that individuals replaced one of the 6 diplomats expelled in August under similar allegations. These accusations may be more about bolstering domestic support in Russia than legitimate intelligence concerns. Publicizing the expulsion allows the Kremlin to maintain a narrative of foreign hostility, deflecting attention from domestic challenges while signaling its strength in the international arena. As we've seen, this latest incident highlights the fragile state of UK-Russia relations and underscores the growing weaponization of espionage accusations. Whether this leads to further diplomatic expulsions or more covert maneuvers remains to be seen. Staying with high-profile espionage in the UK, we turn to the conviction of Daniel Khalife, a former British soldier who spied for Iran. His case, involving leaked sensitive information, faked intelligence documents, and even daring prison escape, serves as a reminder of the threats posed by insider espionage. Daniel Khalife, formerly of the British Army's Royal Corps of Signals, was convicted this week on 2 counts of espionage for Iran. His actions included covertly gathering sensitive information, such as the names of Special Forces soldiers, and passing these to individuals he believes were Iranian intelligence agents. Khalife's story came to public attention during his dramatic escape from the HMP Woodsworth in 2023, where he strapped himself to the underside of a food delivery van. This act sparked a nationwide manhunt, but was only part of a larger espionage plot. One of the most troubling elements of this trial was evidence that Khalife created a document concerning Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe, a British-Iranian national then imprisoned in Iran. The fake document stated that the UK was unwilling to negotiate her release, potentially endangering her life and complicating diplomatic efforts. Khalife's case follows a troubling pattern of adversarial states exploiting individuals for sensitive information. His ability to infiltrate military systems and collect classified data highlights a significant insider threat, particularly when personal vulnerabilities or grievances, such as his frustration over the Iranian heritage blocking his career aspirations, are exploited. The espionage charges builds on Khalife's history of reckless and amateurish attempts to engage with British and Iranian intelligence officials. For instance, he contacted MI5 and MI6 to pitch himself as a double agent, despite his questionable loyalties. This case also underscores the evolving tactics of Iranian intelligence, which uses covert operatives and informal contacts to gather information critical to its political and geopolitical goals. Bethan David, head of the counterterrorism at the Crown Prosecution Service, said Khalife's actions could have endangered military personnel and undermined the UK's national security. Commander Dominic Murphy of the Met's Police Counter-Terrorism Unit emphasized the severity of these offences, noting that such breaches would be met with the full force of the law. In my professional opinion, Khalife's mix of recklessness and opportunism demonstrates how even amateur operatives can cause significant harm. This case highlights the need for robust vetting processes and insider threat monitoring within military and intelligence communities. Daniel Khalife's conviction serves as a chilling reminder of the risk posed by insider threats. From his unauthorized collection of Special Forces data to his fabrication of intelligence documents, his actions jeopardize lives and undermine national security. Moving forward, this case should prompt heightened vigilance and stricter security protocols to safeguard against similar breaches. It also highlights the importance of addressing the personal vulnerabilities that adversarial states may exploit. With even more news of espionage coming out of the UK this week, we're examining an explosive case involving a man who admitted to spying for Russia in the UK. This case, reported by the BBC, reveals chilling details about espionage activities targeting journalists and dissidents, and the sophisticated methods used to gather intelligence for the Russian state. The central figure of the story is Orlan Rusev, a Bulgarian national residing in Great Yarmouth, UK. Alongside with another individual, Vizir Zambozov, Rusev had admitted to conspiring to spy on behalf of Russia. Their convictions were revealed during their trial, which also implicates 3 other defendants accused of espionage. One particularly concerning revelation is that Rusev allegedly discussed plans to target journalist Hristo Grozev, a Bulgarian investigative reporter for Belikat, who exposed Russian links to the 2018 Salisbury attack. Messages between Rusev and Jan Marsalek, described as a Russian intelligence intermediary, detail options ranging from theft to kidnapping and even murder. This case highlights the continued risk to journalists investigating authoritarian regimes and the links to which adversaries like Russia will go to silence critical voices. Espionage activities like this one aren't new, but what stands out is the level of sophistication. Evidence presented in court includes an arsenal of spy gear, 221 mobile phones, 495 SIM cards, 33 audio recorders, and even an IMSI grabber capable of intercepting mobile communication. The defendants are also accused of possessing over 75 passports, many under false identities. This case is part of a broader trend of adversarial nations using non-state actors and advanced technology to conduct operations abroad. These efforts are not limited to silencing critics, but extend to gathering intelligence on military bases, foreign dissidents, and even staging fake protests to influence geopolitical alliances. For example, one of the operational activities listed in this case involved alleged surveillance of Patch Barracks, a U.S. military base believed to train Ukrainian forces during Russian invasion of Ukraine. Prosecutor Alison Morgan described the defendants as operating with high levels of deceit and engaging in direct surveillance of real-world targets. This aligns with Russia's historical use of espionage as a tool to project power, destabilize adversaries, and eliminate perceived threats. This case exemplifies how frightening and effective a small spy cell can be. The inclusion of honey trap tactics, using individuals to extract sensitive information, is a classic approach, now paired with cutting-edge surveillance tools. It also underscores how espionage has evolved to target not just governments but individuals, including journalists and dissidents, as strategic assets or threats. This case is yet another reminder of the global reach of espionage activities and the risk posed by individuals who challenge powerful regimes. Revelations from the trial highlight the sophisticated and ruthless nature of Russian intelligence operations. Looking ahead, we may see increasing efforts by state actors to exploit technology and target specific individuals. It's crucial for journalists, dissidents, and even professionals in key industries to understand and mitigate these threats. For our last story in this week's episode, we're diving into a developing story out of the Baltic Sea. Sweden's investigation into the suspected sabotage of 2 undersea cables and its request for cooperation from China. This case raises serious concerns about the vulnerability of critical infrastructure and the role of state actors and how they play in the targeting of it. Last week, 2 fiber optic cables were severed in the Baltic Sea, one between Finland and Germany and the other between Sweden and Lithuania. Investigators suspected sabotage, and the Chinese vessel Yingping 3 is under scrutiny for its movements near the cables during the incidents. Swedish authorities have formally requested China's cooperation in the investigation, a move that underscores the seriousness of the situation. Reports suggest the damage may have been caused by an anchor dragging along the seabed for more than 100 miles, a technique that, while less dramatic than an explosion, is no less impactful in disrupting vital communications infrastructure. Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson has described the Baltic Sea as a high-risk zone reflecting growing threats of state-sponsored or state-enabled activities targeting undersea assets. Undersea cables are critical to global communications and commerce, transmitting vast amounts of information and data across continents. Despite their importance, they remain highly vulnerable to sabotage. This isn't the first incident in the region. The Nord Stream pipeline explosion in 2022 and the Baltic Connector pipeline damage in 2023 both involved suspected sabotage, with speculation pointing to state-sponsored actors. In the Baltic Connector case, a Chinese vessel was also implicated. These recurring events highlight the strategic interest in disrupting infrastructure in the Baltic Sea, a vital corridor for NATO and EU operations. Such actions have broader implications. The severing of cables can isolate nations or organizations from crucial communication channels, disrupting financial systems, and even impacting military coordination. A senior researcher at NSIA noted that the absence of seismic signals supports the theory that the anchor damage occurred rather than an explosion. Swedish authorities have emphasized that while they are cautious not to assign blame permanently, the investigation is being conducted with the utmost care. From my perspective, this incident aligns with the broader pattern of infrastructure sabotage used as a tool for strategic advantage. Whether it's a show of force or a covert operation, these acts serve to test international response capabilities and sow uncertainty among adversaries. If China's involvement is confirmed, it would further highlight Beijing's willingness to use unconventional methods to assert influence and gather intelligence in strategic regions. The suspected sabotage of undersea cables in the Baltic Sea highlights the vulnerabilities in this critical infrastructure. As state and non-state actors increasingly target these assets, nations must prioritize their protection. Moving forward, we'll need to watch how Sweden and its allies handle this case and whether cooperation from China sheds any light on the situation. This event also underscores the importance of multinational efforts to secure undersea infrastructure. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode. Don't forget, I also co-host Spies Like Us with my two friends, Al Tredenik and Phil Gursky, both retired intelligence professionals. It's like sitting in on a conversation at a bar where former spies talk about the latest in what's happening in the world of espionage. I would like to make a shout out to my friends at B-Sides, where last week I provided a presentation on data breaches and national security, how our adversaries weaponize stolen data. I discussed how China, Russia, and Iran are using state-sponsored hacking groups to target Canada and our Western allies, and what we can do to prevent being a victim of these groups. If you'd like to see the presentation, head over to my YouTube channel. I'll provide a link in the show notes. As always, the links to all the open sources stories discussed in this episode are also available in the show notes. Until next week, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.
Thank you for joining us for this week's Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. Each episode is built on meticulous research and expert analysis, offering top-secret level insights into the world of espionage, foreign interference, and global security. If you found today's stories compelling, we'd love for you to like, comment, or share this episode. It helps us reach more listeners like you who value staying ahead in an increasingly complex world. Don't forget to explore our website, the Global Intelligence Knowledge Network, where you'll find additional resources, expert commentary, and insights into the topics that matter most. As Neil always says, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe. We'll see you next week for more critical intelligence analysis. Thank you for being part of our engaged and informed network.